of its little stationary post that sits right there in the frame. Pull the button for the magazine catch off and remove the spring that resides on the magazine catch. And on the hold open cam. Turn the gun over and we'll remove the other grip. Now be careful when you pull this grip off, because there are some pieces that are sitting in here somewhat loose. They're being held in by the grip. So pulling the grip off, you just want to get a hold of the top of it and pop it out. At the very bottom of the grip, there's a small spring that sits on a little post. We'll take that out. We'll watch out for that little spring, because it can fall off and get lost in the carpet. Now on this side of the weapon, there's a few more parts than we had on the other side. We've got our sear cam, our trigger actuating lever, our magazine hold open, our magazine catch, and its spring. Those sit in little channels, and they're all held in by the grip. So we're going to go ahead and remove the sear cam. It just pops up off of the sear assembly on that little post right there. Now there's a little pin right here that doesn't come out of the frame. It's part of the frame. There's another roll pin right here that could be driven through the frame, but there's no reason in doing that. Its reason for being there is to act as a stop for the sear cam. And on the other side of the gun, there is a sear block that it uses as a retainer for its spring. Pull the spring for the magazine, the catch. Pop the assembly up with your finger on the other side of the frame. Pull the magazine catch out of the frame. Then pull the magazine hold open. Pull it out. Now we've just got our sear left. The sear, if you'll notice, the sear has this ramped edge. It has to face the front of the gun. If it's turned around when you reassemble the gun, the slide will only go back about halfway. You won't get it to operate correctly. So we'll pull the sear out. Right below it is a little spring that sits in a well. That will pop out. Right inside that well, that little well right there, that's where the sear is, or the sear spring sits. And then there's a counterweight guide lever. That little lever holds on to the counterweight that sits down in the back strap of the frame. That little counterweight arm, we can pop it up, and it will more than likely just fall out of its little retaining hole, and the counterweight will fall out of the bottom of the gun. At this point, all we really need to do is worry about the sear block and its little spring right there. We just got to pop it out. It falls out, and then its spring resides right underneath that little pin that we were talking about before. That spring comes out. Now all we have to do is remove the barrel and the trigger. In order to remove the barrel, we're going to remove the barrel with the hold open pin and the hold open cam. Let's take our 1/8 inch pin punch, drive the cam and the pin through the frame. The cam and the pin the cam and the hold open pin come apart. And then there is a pin at the front of the slide that we have to drive out. We'll do that with our 3/32 inch punch. The barrel comes out. Now you can take your barrel and your chamber. You can polish the feed ramp, clean the barrel, whatever you need to do with it. The last thing to come out is the trigger. The trigger, we'll take our 16th inch pin punch, drive its pin down through the frame. Now, that pin is also purposefully bent so that when you get it lined up in the frame, when it goes into the frame, it will bind against the hole and it won't move anymore. But the trigger then, when that pin is pulled out, the trigger just pulls out of the gun, pulls out of the frame, I'm sorry. The frame is completely stripped now. Now we can take our Red 9 cleaner or gun scrubber or whatever you use to clean your frame and your gun parts, get them all cleaned up. I generally, on a new high point, I will take all of the metal surfaces and chamfer down the edges because these are just stamped parts. They've got little burrs on them. The more you make them smoother, they'll operate smoother in the gun. But you can now get into all the nooks and crannies of the frame, get that all cleaned out. The only thing that I'm not going to remove is this little pin here on the trigger. That little pin on the trigger, once you remove that pin, that separates the little spring inside, and it takes about a day to get this thing back on. I usually take some WD-40 or some silicone spray, make sure that this operates, the trigger actually operates freely, along with the trigger rod, the actuating rod. If I had to replace this, High Point Firearms would sell me the whole thing in one piece. So there would be no reason to have to buy just this trigger or just the arm. They sell the whole thing in one piece. As a matter of fact, it's a warranty item, I think, and they will just send it to you free. They're real good people about that. And I don't work for them. Okay, at this point we can clean the gun up, and I'll do another video when it's time to put it back together. Enjoy.